Hello, guys. This is the JAV show. This is Jorge,
And this is Viv.
and this week we have.
Insanity.
Yep. So this week we're doing a filler episode, so it's not within the timeline of the universe right now. We're doing a filler anime episode.
Yeah, so you guys won't know when we recorded this.
Yeah, the manga's gone too far. The anime hasn't caught up, so we got to put a couple of these in.
Yeah.
So this week we're gonna go back to some of these tabletopic questions. I think we had one not too long ago. That was also a filler one. I don't know when we posted it, but I'm pretty sure it's posted because we only have one filler left, and it's not a table topics one. So this one's gonna be an interesting one. We'll have a 3-way table topics filler episode. We'll just talk about shit and hope you guys enjoy it. So the first question we have is, if the average human lifespan was 40 years, 40, how would you live your life differently?
I'd be a lot happier, honestly.
Yeah, I
You
think I'd be
think so?
happier. Yeah.
Dude, you guys are fucking. I mean,
You'd be more depressed or what?
no, but I think okay, regardless of happiness or sadness, like, wouldn't you have to start working at like age 12 or some bullshit? Like, child labor would be like not child labor.
Wait, but that's like too logistical.
But
I
that's
think.
literally what the question is, like, kind of leading towards. Like, if the average human lifespan was 40 years, how would you live your life
Let's say
differently?
the government gave you money. in
That's
some
really-
way.
That's really interesting then, because if the average human lifetime is only 40 years, then you have to kind of go back and see why it's only 40 years. Because the reason why our lifespan has increased from 30 to 40 to around 82 now is that we've advanced our technology in medical and
That
the quality of life for everyone to be able to like double your life expectancy or the average human lifespan. So if the average human lifespan went back to 40 years, then does
No.
that mean that our technology has also gone down? Like, what would be the
Wait, let's
reason
say
for our
let's say on your
lifespan to
40th
go?
birthday, aliens come
no.
and take you away.
This is,
Move
both of you
on.
guys are thinking of this wrong. So pretty much
Excuse me?
how we should be thinking about it is that back then the average lifespan was 30 or
democracy.
20, and now it's become 40. Is how we should be thinking about
Okay, so that means
It-
our
it-
technology and medicine hasn't advanced as far as it has today then, right?
it. No. It just means that there's some, like, genetical truth. Like, there's some genetical marker or something that stops you. Like for us, like, when you get old, you usually die of like sepsis or something. So your body just starts to die and degrade. So, like, why does it start to die and degrade? But we're pretty much just compressing all of that into a shorter time frame, right? We're just saying
Okay.
that instead of your body starting to die and degrade starting in like 60 or 70s, you're starting to die and degrade in your 30, right?
Okay.
And then usually the average, again, it's average human lifespan is
Mhm.
40. So I mean, some people live to 60, some people live to 70, and then very rare people live to 80.
Oh, I thought you meant like 40. You're 40, but then you're
No.
gonna die.
So
oh,
Damn,
okay,
so that
okay.
means it's most likely 30. I
That's
got
what I thought.
If
a
the
few years
average-
in my life.
If the average human lifespan was 40 years. So pretty much that means the expectation now is your average human lifespan is now 40 years. How would you change shit differently? Actually, this might not be the true meaning of the question, because the true meaning of the question would be like, hey, if everything was the same as right now and the average lifespan is 40 years, what would you do differently? Then you'd be like, oh yeah, I would be so inspired to do all this shit. I guess I am thinking about it in a very logical way. It's like, if the average lifespan was 40 years, and that means at age fucking 12, I gotta start working.
Well, I wouldn't say like your idea is the only logical way. I feel like the way that Lynn and I were thinking are also other variable ways that it could be like the question could be taken that it's still logical.
But
In your way,
no, hold up. If your way, the average wouldn't just, like, if the average dipped, it would have to dip over a certain time frame, because there'd be a lot of people already over 40, right? So that means the average wouldn't work out,
I guess so.
right? It'd have to be like some like crazy disease that started, like some like post-apocalyptic thing where some disease came that we couldn't solve, and then all of a sudden it limits people's age to like 60 or something, right? Or I don't know, like some post-apocalyptic thing for if it were to be from right now and then it dropped to 40.
I think I'd procrastinate a lot less with things that I have on my back burner that I keep thinking I have time to do later. But then if I'm gonna get sick at 40, around 40, then I will have less time now. If I'm at this age, 26,
Yeah.
I'm halfway there
Yeah.
already.
Damn.
Goddamn, I'm running
Your
out of
math's
time.
wrong, but
I would think the complete
Almost halfway.
opposite, actually.
Like what do you mean?
I would relax on a lot of things.
yeah, me too.
But you don't have the
Because I
time
feel
to
like
do
I
so.
work really hard, and actually today I just finished. I completed the contract on my second job. So like I feel like I work really hard and I am pretty good with like saving money and like investing and doing all those things just to like just make sure I'm like set and stable. But if my life expectancy were to cut in like pretty much half, I'd chill on a lot of things. I'd be like, yeah, I'm good for now. I'm pretty solid for now. Like I'm on like a very nice trajectory to be set for 40.
Yeah, like if I were to retire right now, I'm Gucci kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
I would relax.
So if
sure.
the question was worded in a way where it's like, okay, so like a different set of question that's similar to this
Yeah.
is like, if you knew you were gonna die at 40, then what would
If
you
you
do differently?
only have 40 years on this planet, my answer's the same. I would make sure all the shit I want to do, I do it. I have no reason to procrastinate because I only have 40 years.
So what would that change now? Because technically you don't know that you won't die at 40 right now.
Yeah, one of my life mottos is memento mori. Remember, you're gonna die.
Isn't that Viv?
And
Yeah,
we have the same.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
By chance,
Yeah.
we didn't plan it.
Yeah, definitely some chamber of echoes.
But
here.
I think it's especially sensitive for me because since I work with a lot of police officers and a lot of law enforcement and a lot of criminally charged people, you never, like, I think I'm just exposed to a lot of that stuff where I'm just exposed to death a lot, and I'm exposed to people just not existing on the planet anymore. Like I always think back to, if someone died that day, I'll think back to in the beginning of the day, they were having a regular day, they went to get their coffee, they went to work, and then they didn't go home that night. So I think me personally, I'm exposed to a lot of that, so it makes me more sensitive. So I already live my life like that, as if I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the day. I always make sure to tell my friends I appreciate them. I always call my parents, I always call my grandparents. I always make sure that the things I do in the day, every day, are meaningful, right? So especially if I know if I'm going to be gone at 40, I'm going to get all my shit done. Every year, every month I have, I'm going to do something that's meaningful, right? That's me if I knew. But that's already, then stuff wouldn't change for me since that's already how I act nowadays without knowing, because you never know.
I would definitely go a lot more. Yeah, I'd be a lot more chill in the sense of like responsibilities and setting my life up and all that shit.
But that's if we started right now.
Yeah, if we started right now,
Yeah.
and I knew that like the average life expectancy was around 40 years, given the age that I'm at right now, I would relax so much on a lot of things.
Fair enough.
And then I would go harder on other things. Like I would take more vacations, and I think I'm pretty good at doing the same thing that you do, Lynn, with like telling my friends I appreciate them enough, or like just showing it in some way somehow, or like making more menial moments a little bit more special. I think I'm like pretty great at that. But I would definitely go harder on taking vacations and spending a little bit more money and doing things like that.
That's what you meant. I thought you meant chilling on all aspects, but you meant just work. Because I'm thinking
Mostly just work. Yeah, like I would relax a lot more on like not like I wouldn't quit my job, but I would relax on how intensely I'm trying to focus on my career and the speed at which I'm going at. Or like, yeah, if I were to die at 40 or like die around 40, then I'm pretty solid and set up for, in terms of like finances and investments and that sort of responsibility part of my life, that I would slow down the fuck on that side.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good.
And we picked a fucked up question.
Yes.
I was like, now that I think back to it, like, okay, if you think about it logically, because the question is, how would you live your life? That means we have to think like, if starting from birth, how would you live your life differently compared to how you lived your life right now?
I think what you said earlier.
But I think it's all relative though. Like,
Okay, answer both questions then maybe.
Pardon?
Answer both ways then.
I mean, how would I mean, it wouldn't be up to you how you live your life differently if everyone died at, or not died, but like if the lifespan was 40 years, then it's just everything you have to start earlier, right? Like the amount of knowledge would just be less. Like people would just be dumber.
Yeah.
Like that's just facts. Like you can't get around that. It's either people are dumber or we just get technology so great that within the short period of time that we can learn, we'll learn everything we need to learn.
I think that's very possible actually.
Yes and no. Like I think there's still limitations right now. Like I think the human brain can only take in so much per day. And like memory is different from comprehension, right? So to actually comprehend stuff, I think the human brain can only comprehend so much per day. But yeah, I think that's one way. But then that's just like, hey, like I don't think people will actually live their life differently. I think everything just gets compressed. Like you just start everything earlier and you just end everything earlier, right? Like there's no like retirement fund at 65. Now it's just at like 35, right? Like 5 years mean a lot more, but when you compare it, it's all relative. Like pretty much you scale everything back. So if 80 is the current lifespan, you just half everything, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really change. I don't think it would change people's life that much. So if you thought about like that, then it wouldn't change anything. If right now I knew I would only live to 40, dude, I'd be full YOLO at that point, I guess. I'm taking beyond vacation days. I'm taking leave without absent days. I'm fucking doing whatever the fuck I want. And then, just gonna call it quits when I call it quits. I feel like the inspiration for a lot of people to actually do something meaningful, if right now they knew that they can only live to 40, because I'm almost certain a huge percentage of people alive right now are already beyond that, they would just not give a fuck. I think the world would just go into fucking chaos.
Yeah,
I think
anarchy.
just like complete, like it'll be complete post-apocalyptic thing. I mean, the only thing I can think of this question making sense is like it becomes like a post-apocalyptic question where it's like there's a disease that only kill people that are older than 40 years old. Then that'd be fucked up because then there'd be some like crazy chaotic thing, like everyone older than 40 has to like try to get all their memory down into like something so then they can teach the younger generation ASAP. I think we picked a really fucking shitty question.
I think it can be a good question too because you have a lot of nuances that you can play off of. And like I think that if we knew that our average life expectancy was 40 years old from the get-go, then
I don't think it would change. I think everything would just get scaled back.
Like, it definitely would get scaled back, but I think if you go into the like details of it, it would feel very different. Like when you're in elementary school, when you're 6 years old, they wouldn't encourage play as much, and they might be like, so have you started investing yet?
Yeah, like
what do you think about your retirement funds?
Like it's literally at 12 you have to start working.
Yeah,
you have to start your career at 12 years old.
That's not
a bad
that
thing.
bad too though. Because I started working at 14.
So but that's a job, not a career. There's a pretty big difference, right?
True.
But I think the only way that will also work is that means our human brain has to develop faster too. Because if it develops at the same rate right now, like your brain doesn't fully develop till you're like 25. Well, if you're 25, you're gonna be dead in 15 years. Like, what the fuck did you do, right?
Yeah.
So I think the only reason that like actual thing would work from birth is like your brain has developed faster because you have to start your career at like 12.
Mm-hmm.
But what about back in like the 1800s when the life expectancy was actually 40? How do you think those people...
Yeah, child labor.
Exactly. Like they didn't... I don't think they would have acted any different. Like they obviously got married younger, but the schooling and everything was the same, more or less.
Yeah,
so
they were just further back in life.
But I think that like society and everything was a lot less complicated too.
How so?
Like when the life expectancy was that small or that low, then you had to, there was just a lot less variables in your life in terms of like, I wouldn't think that people would be working towards a career. They would just want to make ends meet. Right, yeah. And you would only have like one person working essentially. Like just like if you're going to go into traditional roles, I would assume that it would just be the man working, the girl would stay at home, take care of the family because you're going to die around 40, right? And then you wouldn't be like, everyone each has their own career. Everyone has the things that they want to achieve in life, their own personal goals and everything, like how we do now. It would be more like, let's start a family and reproduce and
at 12.
Like really young and get married at like 20 and live our life that way and just take care of the family and have a little like happy family in a little cabin or whatever it is.
Because I feel like that's the life back in the day.
Yeah.
Versus now you have the option to travel, you can go on vacation, right?
I think there's been a lot more child rapists.
What the
Well, think about it. Okay, so who's the strongest of the society would be the people who are like 20, 30-year-old, and they'd want to reproduce with someone like 12-year-old to pass on their genes further, right? And then if you know you're going to die in 10 years, you want the mother to survive to pass on the children, to actually like grow the children to the age of 12.
I wouldn't say rapists then.
I mean, it would
I
be
feel
rape.
like society's view on that would be different in the way that they would accept that part because they would see a 12-year-old as someone who's a little bit more mature than how we would see it.
Yeah. It'd be pretty fucked up, I think.
I feel like nothing would get done.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I
Like-
said, unless technology is really insane where you can download everything really fast and you can learn everything really fast, like, but I'm actually curious because that number, the 40-year-old lifespan, like back in the day, you know how back in the day that's probably the life expectancy?
Mhm.
Was that because of child mortality? Like, was it just because, like, from birth, like, death from birth was so much more common? So,
Yeah.
like, they probably had to count, you know, here's everyone in the world, here's everyone's age at death, this is why the life expectancy is this, right? But if you have a bunch of child mortality, that will skew the number way far left.
What a medicine though.
I agree, but I think that I was
People
just
die
gonna
from the
say I
flu
feel like
back then.
people would die from malnutrition, and before I don't know when penicillin was
But I feel like
discovered, but
I feel like child mortality was one of like like a really high thing back then. So
Yeah.
like dying at age 0 was really high. So dying at age 0 would mean that they would skew like maybe if you pass like
For sure.
age 10, you actually live to age 60 because like you passed the hard part,
Yeah.
right? And
For
then
sure.
and then all these people dying at age 0 skewed the number from 60 to 40, right?
I do think that there's a lot of things that were happening around the world because of the lack of knowledge in hygiene and medicine, all
Yeah.
that stuff that contributed. That was also a large contribution to why people died around the age of 40. Like in Europe, Europe or British or Britain specifically,
Yeah.
how people didn't really care to shower or
Yeah.
bathe and didn't think it was a great thing. They even like thought it was better to not shower. And like if you risk your hygiene in that way, you're gonna be bound to catch a lot of diseases and sicknesses and illnesses.
Oh, okay, here's a flip question to this. What I think is rather weak of a question. If it was like 1850s pre-electricity kind of thing, what kind of job would you want? I think I would love to be a blacksmith.
Like making swords and shit.
Yeah, I think that'd
That'd
be
be
kind of
cool,
cool. I don't think I could. I like I think that's the one role where like I automatically don't have to join the army because I feel like the army back then was like fucked. Like
You're
it's
just
like
you're just
a death
body.
sentence.
Yeah,
It's
you're just a body.
yeah. So I feel like as a blacksmith, I'm needed enough where they don't want me to join the army. But then being anything higher would be like too low a percentage. Like you know what I mean? Like being a professor would be like nowadays being like a fucking president. Like you know what I mean? Like the chances of getting there is just so hard or so low, right?
I'd be a baker, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something in the culinary, like making bread
Yeah,
or making
That's true.
butchering meat or something like that would be easy.
Butchering meat, I feel like butchering
Okay, I
meat would
wouldn't
be
do.
crazy. There's no fridge, dude.
I was
Just
thinking
flies
of like
everywhere.
baking
True.
bread and pies,
Mm.
or like
something food, something or like
Yeah.
owning a tavern or something. That'd be cool.
Mm.
oh, a
Just pouring
tavern would be cool.
meat and stuff. Yeah,
You don't want to work at like a whorehouse or anything?
that was my third choice.
Oh, yeah.
That was my third choice to
I see, I
be
see.
concubine.
That's his dream job. for me.
I want to be like the king's consort, you know, like his mistress. Then you're set for life.
Or I would be somebody who sews things.
Seamstress.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
seamstress.
Oh yeah, that'd be. I
That'd be
remember
really
picking
nice.
just like female gender roles. Baker, seamstress, whore, nice. Why didn't we say blacksmith, man?
Yeah, what did you
Well,
say
no,
blacksmith?
well, because okay, I'm thinking about traditional
Yeah,
roles
yeah.
back in
Jesus
that
Christ.
day, and I don't think I genuinely have an interest in any of those things. So like, I like not carpentry, but like construction. I think it's really interesting. I have my own DeWalt tool bag, guys. But then like, I feel like if you were to ask me to build a cabin, I think I would have fun the first time around. But if that was my job all the time, and given like the technology back in the day where you actually have to use like a manual saw and you have to go out in all the the tough weather conditions and do everything more, have everything be more labor intensive without all the like electric saws and electric technology that we have now, I don't think I would like it that much.
I see.
Or like being a hunter, I would
yeah,
freaking
no.
hate that.
I think a hunter would be alright, but I think the blacksmith is only because like I feel like the chance of you getting robbed is pretty low.
Yeah.
Like you have all
What?
the
Why would it be low? You have all the valuable
yeah,
metals.
but
and
I
stuff.
also okay. So like, let's say I do get robbed. Let's just say I do. The chances of them actually surviving that robbery is going to be pretty low because all the knights I supply weapons to will know that oh shit, they robbed the one guy I go to that makes my stuff, and now he can't do anything. So they're gonna go and find them and kill them, right? So then like the chances of them actually wanting to rob me is gonna be much lower.
There's like I feel like there's a lot of degrees of separation in your theory, but I'll accept it.
Really? I think
You think
it's
knights
pretty
give a
logical.
fuck that you got robbed? They just
Yeah.
want that sword and get out of the day.
Who's gonna help them fix all their stuff if I'm gone? Like if I was an actually good blacksmith, like who the fuck's gonna help
Who
me?
said you're gonna be a good
Damn.
blacksmith? The fuck?
When you say
I mean,
blacksmith, I'm thinking of like Final Fantasy rules, and I'm like, damn. Making potions would be pretty sick. Like when you
Isn't
go
that
into
an
town,
alchemist?
you go into town,
What's a fucking alchemist?
you buy the potions.
I think a knight can only be as good as their blacksmith too, though. Like if they're going on 1v1 combat and
That's
their sword's not
true.
as good,
Your sword breaks when it hits a wooden
Yeah,
shield,
then
and you're
you're
like, the
fucking-
fuck,
you're
that was a
fucked,
level
right?
1 shield.
or if like your sword comes off as just like a fucking hilt when you try to like, you need a really good blacksmith for that shit.
That's
What
true.
about coach driver? Just
No,
drive
I feel like you get
around.
robbed all day. Like we were talking about getting robbed. I feel like that's the
You're the
one job
number
you
one
get.
person. They see you driving around, they're like, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. You're driving past. Like, it's the fucking 5th time in a row this week.
Alright, then I go back to.
I wake up every time in different clothes.
Alright, then I go back to being a concubine. Easy money.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just trying to think of like Red Dead Redemption, like the video game. I'm like, yeah, I rob coaches all the fucking
Yeah,
time.
all the time. They're the number one thing in any game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's go into our next question, and maybe we'll add another one if we don't have that. So next question is, what do we all have in common besides our genes that make us human? So I think the core of this question is first, how do you define a human? So do you define someone
Sure.
who's like a serial killer a human?
Biologically, yes.
Biologically.
Yeah.
But like I said, like the question said, other than genes, because the genes is your biology, it's what dictates what you become. Other than like that DNA of you, what do you consider human? Because that's until you answer that, that's the only way you can answer the question is what do we all have in common besides our genes that make us human, right? Like you could say, yeah, 2 eyeballs, but technically, some people don't have that. You could say all these things, and there's always exceptions, right?
Feelings.
I mean,
I
that
can't
wasn't the initial question. The initial question is like, what makes like what do you define as humans? Like just feelings?
What do I? Yeah, people with.
But then dogs have feelings.
Do they?
I think they do. I don't know. Like, what do you think, Viv?
I think what we have in common that defines us as humans, or one big common trait, is empathy.
Mm.
And when you
Really?
lack empathy, it's kind of hard to see someone as like if you're completely devoid of empathy, then you kind of seem like more of a shell of a human being. And my original answer was to contribute to our definition of good, like your very own definition of good. But when you said like a psychopath,
Yeah.
I'm like, what if a psychopath thinks like, I'm making it better for fucking Mother Earth because there's less humans on Earth?
Maybe. I mean, like, do you it sounds mean to like say, no, I don't consider them human.
Yeah.
But like some people are crazy to the gills where I'm like, I don't know, that person's like
Yeah, like an
that
actual
person's human in biology and
Yeah.
physical like sense, but like other than that, like they don't share specific traits. And I do agree with Viv. One of them is empathy. Like they don't have empathy for anything. kind of
Yeah.
thing. Which like I think I don't know, like, and that's crazy too though, because if you think about the other way I talk about like do animals have empathy? I think very few animals have empathy.
Yeah, I think some animals definitely do.
Yeah.
I would like to say that it takes a combination of certain traits that makes us human,
Okay.
not just one. So like, yeah, animals also have empathy, but I think empathy is a huge one that humans have to have in order to be defined as human or seen as human, or that's how you lose your human quality when you show like none of that at all.
It's like one of the many that you
Yeah.
think is going to define it. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think maybe another one might be
I think another one is okay, this might be convoluted, but I think justice. So I think animals don't have justice. Like they don't care. There's no such thing as justice to them. There's
I can
nothing
see
that's
that.
just. But
It's
I
like-
think to be human, like even if your justice is wrong, like if you're like a radical Taliban person, you still have justice in your mind. It's just the way you enact the justice is different than how other people enact the justice. But there is still justice.
I agree.
Whereas I think what defines us between animals and humans is like I don't even know how to define justice. It's like righteousness or like
Equality in a way.
not
I
really
wouldn't say
equality.
equality.
It's like it's very
You
hard
know
to
how
define.
earlier when I said contribute to our definition of good,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that in a way, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's definition is different, or everyone's reason for doing things is different. Like sometimes you might meet somebody who's a complete fucking bitch, but then they're like nice to the people that they love, and they may be completely crazy in public and an asshole to everyone else, but they do it because because of who they are or whatever, but then they're still good or working towards giving somebody or giving something or putting their efforts towards something that they love and genuinely care for.
Then what about suffering and loss, like kind of negative emotions? Like I feel like humans bond through dark times or suffering in some way, like COVID kind of brought people together, or death.
But
I
don't think it's exclusive though.
Yeah, I feel like
But
a lot of
animals feel
Yeah,
suffer.
I think so.
Dogs can get depression for
Yeah.
sure and go on like
I think like
antidepressants.
whales and stuff, they get really
Yeah.
depressed if their calf dies and shit.
Mhm.
So I think
Same with elephants too.
I don't think suffering is one of the like very defining traits
Mhm.
that makes us different. But I definitely think right now what we have on the list is empathy, justice. I mean, there's some other like very like logical ones.
Oh, is it consciousness?
But
I feel like that would be a good way to describe
do
it.
animals not have consciousness? They're sentient too.
Not in the terms of not being sentient, but more like having more intentions behind the things that you do.
Like intelligence. in
Yeah,
a
like
way.
intention and like intelligence in that way. Like if you hurt someone, you would feel bad about it, or you would hope you feel bad about it, and that's the conscious part.
Isn't that empathy though?
That is true. That is true. That would
Because
be-
I'm just thinking like consciousness. It's like you knowing. Okay, what I imagine when you say consciousness is like you look at the mirror and you realize it's yourself, right?
Yes.
And like some animals do and don't do that.
yes.
And what I imagine is like when a robot eventually becomes sentient or something, they'll have that aha moment, right? Like I'm sentient, right? But then that's not exclusive to humans, is what I'm thinking too. It's like
yes.
it's not just
Good
humans.
point.
I think animals can do that too.
I feel like there's just a type of intelligence that humans have that not, well, I guess no animals do. Like for example, agriculture. Like we've developed our technology. Like we have evolved in a way, like mentally, from 1800s till now. Like animals wouldn't know how to farm, or
But
they wouldn't
that's-
develop.
That's within our genes, right?
Is it though?
I mean, I think the only way our genes got better is that the smarter people procreated and the dumber people couldn't, and then it slowly developed to the way we are now. To be able to like be more critical thinking.
Oh, I have one. Writing,
Reading and writing, like
Yeah.
literature.
literature, that differentiates us from animals.
But can't some animals read, like, to differentiate like shapes of words? I think birds can do that.
No, wait. Actually, then I think art then, because I don't think animals can actually appreciate like artwork and
Yeah.
like something abstract like that. That's non-real, non-physical, but
Yeah.
means something else.
Mm.
I think like it has to go beyond writing and just literature, but like art.
Yeah.
I guess art could include like literature itself, but not writing itself
Yeah.
Yeah.
mattered. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think like art or literature or whatever
Mhm.
is a defining factor of humans that separates us too.
I was going to say language at first, but then yeah, obviously animals can communicate with each other, so it had to be something slightly different, like on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, like recording things.
Because okay, the other question that goes beyond this is one day if there are humans here, what makes them different from us, right? And I think those three things so far is actually going to be true, right? The art we have is going to be different, and it may be something they don't even express. Like who knows if aliens can even see at the same wavelengths as we see, right? They
Mhm.
might see in X-rays or in like infrared or some bullshit. Whether they have justice or not, I'm not sure, but for sure we do, right? And then whether
Mhm.
they have empathy or not, for sure we do. But I think for sure, like those ones, I guess I was gonna say love, but I guess animals technically do have love for each other, but I don't know how they can express it. Like, do they express it in the same way or
Feel
anything?
lust. Do animals feel lust?
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
they
Yeah.
fuck all the time.
Yeah. Dolphins.
dolphins do,
all
yeah.
the time.
And
Yeah.
lions do, I think.
like deers go in heat and they just go
But what
around
about, like,
fucking.
seahorses?
What about like you know, we make love like it's passion, like it's actually you're in love with someone and you do that, but do animals just do it to reproduce? You know what I mean? Like it's an instinct to do that, to pass on your genes. But you know when you're in love with somebody, you have strong feelings for somebody. Do animals feel that? Like
Like,
love,
so
Animals
passion.
feel other love for animals.
like
Do they
I
feel
don't-
passion? is what you're
passion.
saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't know. If they feel passionate.
Like
That's true.
I'm in, like I have so strong feelings for this person or thing.
The
An
only
animal,
the only thing I can think of is like a dog to a human, because they would be obsessed. Like they have like a thing of pleasing you in a way. Like
Yeah.
your own.
But it's
like,
not like your partner. It's different. I think that's loyalty. It's different than passion.
I think the only thing that I could think of that would be similar would be like monkeys to other monkeys. Because they actually like miss their kids and love their kids, won't take care of their kids and try and raise their kids the proper way.
That would be true for lions too. You ever seen those videos where the lions see the old owner that used to like take care of them and shit, and they get really sad or they get really happy and sad and all that stuff, all those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that deep sense of emotion is still there. Actually, now so then the question would be like, does a deep emotion, is that even exclusive to humans? Because it might not be, right? Like, I think animals can feel deep emotions too.
But is deep emotion the exact same definition as passion though? I feel like there's a type of twist that passion has to it that you can't define deep emotions to exactly.
So do you think animals can develop passion?
I would like to think that passion has more of a more active efforts towards
I mean, if that's the case, I still think they do have passion.
the love that you have.
I still think they would still have passion. It would be like a passion of hate, or it could be a passion of something else, right? They could just hate something so much.
Oh, that is true.
Right? And that's their act of passion, is them always trying to like hurt this thing or kill this thing or get that thing.
What's the difference between that and instinct?
Well, it won't be instinct, because instinct would be something that's automatic, right?
But killing is instinct for animals, right?
Yeah, but so okay, the only thing
animals feel enjoyment and passion from killing, or is that just I need to eat that?
I think they just have I need to eat that kind of brain.
So that's an instinct. It's not passion.
Oh, but I would say that if you think about I keep thinking comparing to monkeys because I watched a lot of things on monkeys, but then I would say that maybe they do show some sort of passion, because you can see when they're angry or when you hurt their kids how angry they get to other monkeys and stuff like that. They'll literally ostracize a monkey if they're bullying another monkey, and if the monkey that they're bullying has more value or is more loved within the group.
Yeah, I think so. I think they also have. I don't think it's exclusive to humans for passion. But I think we have some for sure, right? Empathy, justice, art.
But then by that logic, you don't know monkeys can feel empathy too. In that case.
True. They could feel empathy.
That's true.
I think their chances of feeling empathy is. No, you're right. I think animals can feel empathy. I think they can't feel empathy as deep as we do, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a surface level empathy.
Yeah, they just think, oh, this thing's hurting.
But then is this just monkeys? Because monkeys are fairly intelligent.
No. I think dogs can feel empathy too.
I think probably elephants too.
Yeah. I think they can feel empathy. I think they can't feel as deeply as humans do. I think they can't.
Probably passion too in that.
Actually, no. So I think they can't. I don't know if they can feel empathy, because do they put themselves in that shoes? Empathy is almost like you putting yourselves in that other person's shoes to feel that emotion. But do they just feel sad for that thing because it's in pain or it's hungry or it's sad? But do they ever put themselves in that shoes? That, I'm actually not sure.
Oh, that is true.
Right? Because humans, we can actively think oh, this is how Viv feels because she went through the shit. But do animals actually go that far? Or do they just say oh, Viv feels bad?
Yeah.
Right.
And I care about Viv type of thing.
Yeah. But then it doesn't go to the point where oh, I put myself in Viv's shoes and Viv feels bad because of these specific things that happened to her. Right. And I think that's the difference between empathy and I don't know, sympathy or caring, or I don't know. I don't know what the other terminology would be.
But even for humans, they can feel that surface level empathy. They might not care enough to be I'm going to put myself in Viv's shoes and know what she's feeling.
But what makes us human, as what we went back to the beginning, is I think serial killers may not have the ability to experience that. Therefore, I don't think they're even that's what defines us as humans almost, right?
And I've definitely met some people, and I know some people that are very lacking in empathy too, and it's kind of.
But they still have some, they still would have something, right? Or they have the ability to, at least.
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
But if you're completely devoid of it, then I think it'd be hard to see that person as completely human, because I think something really easy for me that lets me not be so angry or take things so personally all the time for anything is that everyone's human. There's something I repeat to myself all the time, is that, oh, you're just being human. Or even when you're trying to be more forgiving for yourself, you just tell yourself, oh, you're just human.
Mm-hmm.
You give yourself that grace of making mistakes and having flaws and all that stuff because you're human. But I think that if somebody wasn't able to show empathy at all, then it would be very hard for me to give them that same grace or say oh, they're just being human.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, there's just certain things. It's just so hard to, like, you know, serial killers. Like, it's
Yeah.
like they don't think the same. But okay, for me, also like pedophiles, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I can't. It's so hard. Like, I can't empathize with that kind of like that, right? Like, I know they have this whatever. I don't even know if it's genetic or if it's just trauma or whatever. But it's just like, yeah. At that point, I wouldn't even say like, oh, they're just human. It's just like, no. That's not.
I agree.
That's almost not the same
agree.
anymore. Like, it sounds really bad, but it's like I consider that almost like a sub race.
I think it's kind of like if you can't relate to, this seems kind of totalitarian, but if you can't relate to what the majority would see in this kind of situation as like a human to human, something that you just think is fundamentally not right,
Yeah.
then that's what kind of takes you away from the category of being human, like being a pedophile or like murdering someone or like, I don't know, even doing things like that. Then you're like, what the fuck? That seems like something that should be fundamentally outside of your nature.
So the murdering someone actually I think is still human to say. Like, for example, if someone was taught and like, okay, here's a example that I'll probably get hate on, but like if you were indoctrinated in like the Nazism and shit, and then you went and killed a an allied soldier and stuff, like a non-Nazi, like you still had empathy, you still had justice, you still had all these human things, but you were just taught the wrong way. And it's the same as these like crazy radical Taliban people, right? Like, they're still human in my opinion. They just had something like wired differently, or not wired differently. They're taught differently. But then like I think like serial killers are wired differently completely.
I can completely see that. Like if I think about, if you think about Hitler, I can still see Hitler as somebody who's still human, no matter like even though he's did all the things that he's done.
I think he's wired differently. Maybe.
But maybe it's also because I don't know enough about it. But for all I know about him is that he was essentially the leader for this whole war or like army of people who wanted to kill another race. That's essentially all I know about him. And I see it as like, okay, you were raised differently and taught wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're, like you said, if you know somebody that's like a serial killer, and if I probably learned more about Hitler, maybe I'll find out that he was actually a serial killer who was doing things by his own hands and like saw these people bleed and like did things like because he got some sort of enjoyment out of it some way somehow, then I would see that as you are being wired differently. You're actually not human. Like you actually have a fatal flaw that makes you not human.
But then it goes back to Hitler specifically. You have to go back to World War One, where World War One shaped the country into XYZ, which made him hate Jewish people, which made him and like that.
But so like what's so?
But the whole country was like that, not just him.
Yeah, but it couldn't. Oh, okay. So maybe some people would argue that if it wasn't him, it would be someone else.
Yeah.
But I think like without him, it wouldn't have become this. Also.
Yeah.
Like I think all the people under him were indoctrinated improperly, but he was indoctrinated improperly and wired differently.
Oh, that would make sense. Like there had to be something that made him stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think it was both for him. Like all these people, yes, they were taught wrong and they did wrong and they were fucked up, but they're fucked up in their own ways. But he was that, and he was wired non-humanly, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I mean, it could be it could be debated. Like it could be like the drugs he used and all that shit. But I mean, it goes to all like crazy people out there too, right? Like or all people who's went through that, right?
Then how do you guys feel about like mental health cases? Like for example, in Vancouver, that's like a huge thing right now. Everyone's talking about all these mental health people on the street. They're just jacked up on coke and they're just crazy. Are they also wired differently, or it's because of the timeline of their lives that led them to that point?
I think it's a timeline of their lives. Like no one actually. I feel like I hate it when people make fun of like homeless people or say anything negative, because like sometimes they put themselves in those situations, but I think systematically sometimes you're just born with the wrong hand, with the wrong the wrong hand of cards, and it's just kind of hard for you to get out of that. And it's more, you have more chances of putting yourself in that position because of where you were born and the system that you were placed in and the cards that you were given when you were born. And like obviously no one wants to be there, and when you're there, unless you experience it for yourself, you don't know what the kind of person you'll be when you get to that spot. So I'm sure a lot of people become drug addicts, or like you hear it's a very common place for people who are homeless to become drug addicts, or to become really dependent on alcohol or whatever other substance abuse, or you see them be a little bit more delirious about life. And I feel like that's their only way of making the best of their situation in a way that makes it feel better for them. And like when people who haven't been in their shoes or haven't been in a really tough spot, and maybe they've been like spoon fed with a silver spoon their whole life, they might see it as, oh my god, these people are disgusting, they're lower than me, or whatever else you may have it. But until you're actually in that position, you don't know what means you'll go to make life bearable in that way. So I think for those people, it's not that they're wired differently, they're just they're just doing that because that's what they need to do to make life bearable.
Okay, so
in a way.
I think well, okay, so I think the serial killer is different though. Like I think what we're talking about is like people who enjoy torturing of other people.
Yeah.
Like the true, like they actually, their brain is wired in a way where they enjoy it. And I think most
Ted Bundy type.
Yeah, most of the homeless and like crazy people don't, like if you gave them the option, they would not want to do that.
Yeah, if you're like, hey, like here's a job, here's how you get yourself out. Like I'll help you get yourself out of this situation. And I'm sure a lot of people actually take that if they're in the mental state to do so. But if some people think like my life is fucked, I'd rather just do drugs or whatever, or like live this way out until I go out, then like that's also that. I wouldn't say that's also like wrong, but I would say like, oh, maybe they've just kind of given up because they've seen enough pain or they've suffered enough.
But there is a difference between serial killers with a purpose and just serial killers who just want to kill for fun. For example, Ted Bundy, he killed for fun. It's like a sport, it's like hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Hitler or Charles Manson, they kind of are the protagonists in their own story. They want to see the world a better place, so then they did it because of that. In their mind, it's the better place. Versus Ted Bundy, it's just like because I want to.
Yeah,
for no reason.
I'm
right?
curious too because like if their true goal was to, they didn't have to torture. Right. Like I think that's one of the defining factors. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. If you're a military guy, you have to kill that enemy, right? Like you're not a bad person. It's just what it is. I don't think killing itself makes you are or
like
not
what you get
human.
out of it, right?
But I think like it's the fucking feeling you get out of it. The joy of it is the part that wires you differently.
Oh wait, I've always thought this. So you know how Putin obviously like bombed all of Ukraine and everything. Yeah. He probably didn't lay a single finger down. Do you think in the situation where Putin had to do it himself, do you think he would have the guts to do that? Or is it like he's just like, go pawns, do my dirty work for me? But do you think he actually is capable?
I think that he's also capable because I feel like even if you're somebody who actively is doing it by your own hands, or if you're the person that's leading the army or whatever team you have it do it, you will still hear some sort of backlash or like the pain that you're causing. And if that doesn't make you feel anything, then you got issues in your brain.
Okay, so then why don't I feel anything when I eat a steak? I didn't kill a cow, but I'm like indirectly causing that thing to happen. But I don't feel bad.
I think you're far enough removed to it, and that's why. But I feel like if you were told to go kill a cow, and cut it out and do all that stuff, then you would not be able to do it.
That's what I'm saying. So is Putin. He's nowhere near the front line of the army.
No, but like that's different. He can't physically go and kill that many people.
Yeah, or if no so many farmers came up to you and was like, please stop, like this is my cow, let me tell you about my cow that you just asked to be killed because you wanted a burger yesterday. I'm sure you'd be like, I'm fucking sorry, let me cancel that order.
So do you think Putin has that same level of empathy where if all these people, Ukrainians, actually went up to his front door, knocked on him and be like, hey, can you please stop bombing our country? Do you think he would feel any sort of way?
No, I don't think so. Because I'm sure he can hear all the pain that he's causing, all the people that are saying, oh, I'm losing my family, I'm losing my house, I lost this. Like, why is he doing this? All the eruption that's happening in the news, and he does not care. He's just like, keep going, guys.
Yeah, he'll justify it in a different way for himself, right? Like you pretty much like in that situation where everyone else thinks you're wrong, you have to like find a way to think you're right. And his answer would be like, if I don't do this, the Russian people will die for this, right? So his justification for that will be like,
your pain is worth it.
Yeah, like to save my people, I have to kill these people.
Yeah, he's the protagonist in his own story. Right?
Yeah. So for him, I don't know if he's actually wired differently. I feel like if he was wired differently, he'd fucking drop a nuke right now. But
I don't know.
He has not yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's true, actually.
I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's just certain people you kind of see and you're like, yo, these guys are not wired the same. And the people who like to like torture animals or torture humans, those are wired differently.
So my question to you guys would be, do you guys think our legal system should be changed in a way that encompasses different tiers of people? For example,
I mean,
I was gonna say for sure.
That's the caste system, though.
But like, okay, so like, but like,
What do you
why?
mean different tiers? Like,
So like, for example, criminals who've murdered, they get put in jail. They get parole after X amount of years.
isn't that already happening?
Yeah, so like, and then let's say this person gets released after 20 years. So this happens all the time where like
Yeah.
sex offenders, they're in jail for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
They get released. They just do the same shit over and
Yeah.
over. So, but that's our right as a Canadian to have freedom. Once our sentence is over, we get released.
Yeah.
But then these people reoffend immediately after they're released.
Yeah.
So do those people deserve the same rights as regular people?
But
who
don't they
never-
already not have the same rights? Like they can't vote and shit after they're released, and like there's all these like restrictions on them already.
Yeah, but they don't care about voting. They're just gonna go kill a bunch of other people.
Yeah, no, but like even in our justice system
Yeah.
right now, they are already
Yeah.
a lower class. Like they are already a different.
So do you think they deserve that?
I mean, for that case, yeah.
Yeah.
But what
that
about
makes sense.
getting keeping them imprisoned when it's past their
No,
sentencing?
because they've done their time.
I think it depends on what they did.
Yeah.
But
So like some people are put into jail because you sell drugs or you carry too much drugs on you or whatever. Then yeah, those people obviously can go back out because you never actually hurt anyone
Yeah.
like that. But if you are a serial killer and you did your time, my personal opinion is that you don't deserve to ever leave that
but
time.
there's no way they can do their time. They have multiple life sentence.
Yeah.
So there's like that's why I was saying the system is still quote unquote fair because there's no way they
Mm-hmm.
can come out anyways.
Not
Like-
not all though. A lot of people still come out after
No,
10 years and they
yeah,
still do
there's
it.
some people that murdered one person on purpose or whatever.
Yeah.
And
You
it
only
can
get
still
15
come out.
years.
So
And then
so do you think they? So are you saying they don't deserve
Yeah.
redemption?
I guess it's a
I-
gray area. I think
I mean, I still think they
Okay.
deserve redemption.
everyone gets one chance. Okay, you get one chance to.
But
once you're out,
that's exactly what the justice system does. Because if you're a repeat offender, the next sentencing would be much heavier with a
but
much
then
longer
you
term.
get released every time, and then you just keep doing
but
it.
I mean,
I feel like
murdering
the
is-
second time you probably wouldn't get released again.
Yeah.
Murdering is different, I guess, because you get life sentences. But like something like being a sex offender
But
or being
don't you get like a much heavier sentence if you do it again? If you repeat?
depends on the person, though, right? Because it depends on the judge, depends on everything. But if you get released, you
That's
just keep
true.
doing it.
There are some very unfair
Okay.
cases.
Yeah.
Like the entire BLM thing. A lot of those things are completely
Yeah.
unfair.
But the sex offender would already be in a lower tier because they're for life have to be like registered as a sex offender wherever they go.
Yeah.
And then if they do commit, like I think they do deserve the first redemption
Yeah.
possibility, and then if not, they do get a much heavier sentence. And by the time they come out of their second sentence, I don't know if they have much life to live or much ability to offend again after that.
Mhm. When you were talking about different layers to the justice system, I was thinking about, there needs to be a lot more stricter laws and rules enforced onto the people who essentially have more of a word in our society. So like billionaires, like multimillionaires, people in the government, people who have power in that way. A lot of people are essentially touchless if they're not in the
Yeah.
middle class or if they're not part of your regular citizen class. And I think in that case, there needs to be some way for the people in the middle class to have more of a say,
Yeah.
or for those people to actually have to be not controlled, but they have to go through
They
The
have to be
same-
accountable for what
they have to be accountable for the things that they also do. Just because you have a shit ton of money
Yeah.
or just because you have a shit ton of power doesn't mean you're above anyone else. And you can just break the rules all the time and hurt people or push agendas that aren't actually okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's mostly in the whole it's mostly in the whole corporation scheme, right?
Yeah.
So like if a corporation does something bad,
Yeah.
they get a big fine, but no one gets imprisoned. I agree. Like if you're the top dog and your corporation fucked up, you something has to happen. But at the same time, empathetically thinking, if I was the top dog and some low level Subway guy, if I was top of Subway and some low level Subway guy went and killed someone or went and poisoned a bunch of bread, I was fuck it,
That's not your fault.
there's only so much quality control I can do, right? But
Well,
technically,
yeah, that's different.
yeah. I guess it'd have to be known, right? If the CEO
That's
known
different,
or if the leader known that there was a problem and they hid it from public and tried to hide the problem and
That's
then it
different.
became something big, then I guess that's the case where they should be liable for it, and not just financially liable. Like they should pay with something more serious, right?
So I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
thinking about that basketball player that got arrested in Russia for having weed on her. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then they just traded her like with a war criminal, like it's no big deal. But
Yeah.
she's just, and then she's free here. Like that, I saw that. I was like, that's crazy. If it was any regular Joe, they would not have cared.
True. If it wasn't a bisexual female black basketball player, then the care may have been a lot less. I do agree with that. But unfortunately, that's the case. But at the same time, I don't know. Like a bit of me also thinks like, fuck, man, if I was in her shoes, I'd be like, God damn it, please help me out here.
I believe one of the cops that shot Breonna Taylor, I believe that's her name, he moved to a different city and he just got appointed a higher position in the police. In the police rank.
Yeah. Isn't the state system it's more chaotic?
The state's policing system is way different than ours in Canada. Like, we have way more stricter rules. We have like a audit board. Whenever anyone draws a gun, they get investigated.
The fact that there can be any corrupt government, I think, shows that there needs to be something in line to keep like any of these big enforcers accountable for things.
But the States is messed up. They're paying after what country, anyways.
Yeah.
So
they're able to hit their capital. What's it called? Their capital or their max debt ceiling.
Soon?
Who do they owe?
Yeah.
Russia?
China?
Like the entire fucking world.
Oh, nice.
But if they hit their max debt ceiling, then everything's gonna go in a like huge recession because then they actually can't borrow any more money.
I mean,
or sell any more bonds.
Who controls that?
Which is fucking
value?
Insane.
I mean, the question is who controls that cap value.
But then obviously, if like if the USA goes into that, I forgot what the specific word it was. Can you search it up? Actually, if the USA actually goes into that, then like so many countries will go into a recession.
I don't know what you want me to search.
Search up USA.
I have no idea what you want me to search here. But I mean, the question is who controls that arbitrary number that we've created or whoever created.
If it's Biden, they're just gonna increase it. Oh yeah, that's fine.
I mean, even if it's not him, even if it's a conglomerate of other people that created it, I'm pretty sure the U.S. has right now. They have enough influence to get them to change that number, right? Because like Viv said, if it does reach that, then everything's gonna get fucked, right?
I don't understand how countries can borrow from other countries. Like, how's that work? They just wire it, or like what?
No. It's just
how's that work? I don't understand how that works.
It's all on the fucking internet. It's all on the fucking computer. It's all digitized shit. But yeah, it's all a bunch of random agreements passing around. No one's paying shit.
It's called the debt ceiling.
Oh, okay.
So the U.S. is about to hit the debt ceiling in 2023.
The question is who controls that debt ceiling?
And who contributes?
And over the last few years, they've been constantly like increasing their like debt max, but now it's like actual max that you actually can't until you like break down.
But who? So before they were increasing their max, but who was controlling that increase and who limited that increase? That's the question that has to be asked, right?
Congress.
Oh yeah.
This is a U.S. import.
So then they're just gonna be like, nope, we're gonna increase it again. Print some more money, guys. Let's go.
What does the U.S. import besides oil and gas?
No, they export a lot of oil and gas.
Or yeah, like what is their besides that? What is it?
Why they export?
Yeah, what are they exporting?
They export a lot of food.
Mm.
Yeah, like a lot of the food, like a lot of soy and stuff. Especially with Ukraine-Russia war, they export a lot of that shit too. Obviously, like technology-related stuff and things like that. But the food, they also export quite a bit of food. Like if they want to self-sustain, they can self-sustain. I think.
What Canada besides oil, do you know? And food probably.
Yeah, food, lumber, shit like
I'm
that.
just reading. I forgot what the exact
Natural
word
resources.
for it was, but I'm just reading an article right now. It says, okay, if the USA hits their debt ceiling, then they would immediately go into a halt they would halt about 1/10 of the US's economic activity, which is fucking insane.
Okay, guys, we're just fucking three monkeys trying to figure this shit out. I don't think we're the ones that we should be talking about this.
And it would lead to the loss of around 3 million jobs.
First of all, who the fuck wrote that article? Who is it?
Oh, this is a site called CFR.
Oh, okay. What does CFR stand for? I mean, I could probably figure that out too with a computer.
Council of Foreign Relations.
Oh, okay. And that's probably that's a think tank from the US. Okay. headquartered in the U.S. I mean, doesn't this feel like similar to like? I mean, I don't doubt there's gonna be some type of recession coming, but this doesn't that sound like fear mongering and shit also? Like very similar shit that the news always posts, like fear related.
I think yeah, it's definitely fear related news, but I think it's fucking insane that it's getting there because this will be the first time in history that any country ever hit their ceiling.
I mean,
their debt ceiling.
But like you said, they raised it last year, right?
But they actually, I forgot why. I was reading a bunch of stuff about it, but they actually can't raise it this time.
I know, but
so if they actually hit it this time, they're fucked.
Yeah, but they did raise it last time, right?
Yeah.
So that means they could have been the first time to hit it in history last time too. If they didn't raise it.
Like most of the time they keep their debt ceiling very low, like lower than your actual max, but this time it's like the actual max. So you actually can't keep maxing it. It's like, like you can always get fatter.
Like,
but then,
like a contingency, you're saying?
Yeah, like a contingency. Yeah, okay. You can always get fatter, but maybe once you hit 300 pounds, you're actually going to start dying.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're not the best people to talk about this shit because we have no idea what truly this stuff is.
But that's fucking
Three monkeys talking about finance.
Yeah, we don't know jack shit about this. All right, do you want to do a different interesting question?
Sure.
What's a belief that you hold with which many people disagree? What are some hot takes you have? I kind of want to hear what you guys' hot takes.
Hot takes.
Here's a hot take.
Canceled.
Here's a hot take. No, I mean it doesn't have to be
all the time
canceled related. But I have a hot take where you know how a lot of our friends are buying houses. I'm not a proponent of the I'm not a proponent of the real estate market. I think it's it could be good, but I feel like if you don't know what you're doing, it's kind of average at best. So I feel like I think if you don't need one, like if you don't have a family, I think. Or if you're not about to start a family, or if you don't have family, I don't think it's very useful, in my opinion.
So do you have feelings of, let's say you didn't live at your parents' house, you were renting an apartment for a decent amount of money. Do you have those feelings of, oh no, I'm wasting money by paying someone else's mortgage, XYZ?
I may have more of those feelings, but I still would not like to be tied down to one place permanently. Like, it's not permanent. I understand it's not permanent. But any growth you have in terms of finance, as soon as you sell your house within 5 years of buying it, like as long as you don't own that house for more than 10 years, and as long as there's not some miracle in the market, you're going to lose money. Like for sure, with like lawyer fees, moving fees, all these other shit, taxes you paid, etc., you're always going to lose money. So I feel like unless you have a family and you plan to stay somewhere for 10 years for sure, like I don't know if it's the right idea. And I know a lot of like not mainstream, but like a lot of at least the people we know, they're always like, oh yeah, buy a house, you know, as soon as I was like, fuck that, man. I don't think that's the right thing to do, guys. Like I feel like it's kind of a debate almost. Like who gains the most when you buy a house? The bank does. So who's advertising for you to buy a house? You have to think about it that way too, right? Now I know there's some good things to it too, and like all that stuff, but I don't know. I feel like you can still live okay, so a part of it is finance. A part of it is like investment related. I was like, I don't believe it. I believe you can make just as much, if not the same amount, in terms of just pure investments compared to a house, and still rent, and still like the difference between rent and mortgage and however much you get at the end of the day, I think is still could be very comparable. So like next 30 years I buy a house, whatever the house is worth, and then if I invested this money for 30 years, I think the amount of money I get at the end is a comparable amount even after you minus rent. But the next thing in my life that I'm kind of iffy about, yeah, it is.
Even if you're doing that in like a really hot market or someplace where.
So if you do in a hot market, the price you buy for the house also is higher. So it would still average out to the same. Like yeah, your rent is higher, but your purchase price for the house is higher. What if you're living somewhere where it
houses cost a lot more, like in Vancouver and Hong Kong, where like your purchasing rate, no matter when you buy it, you'll probably make so much more money back if you hold the house for a few years than if you were just to rent.
No, I still think the money you get from the investments, even if it's like a base S&P 500 type of thing, that's S&P 500 over like X like 100 some years is still about 10% return per year. If you compound that over 30 years compared to like the price of the house, and like you said, like if you have to compare the difference between renting. So the price for the mortgage, insurance, all the fix-ups, minus how much you have to pay for rent, and then whatever's left, you invest that, I still think it would be comparable. It won't be like a staggering amount one way or the other, if that makes sense. It won't be like one of them is 2x the other one, or one of them is 3x the other one. I was like, no, maybe one of them is like 1.15x or 1.1x or 1.2x the other one.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because I would still think that buying a house would still give you a tiny bit of a lead if you buy it in the right place.
I mean, if you buy
if you did it in Edmonton, probably not. Probably like generally the same. But if you did it in some place like Vancouver and Hong Kong, I would like to. I think it would be slightly higher.
I actually think the reverse is true. You probably make more money in Edmonton buying a house than in Vancouver at the end of X period of time.
Oh, interesting.
But I think people don't understand some of the shit that comes with a house. Like a house itself depreciates. Like you have to fix it up over time.
Oh,
and each time you fix it up, it's going to cost
a lot.
20, 30, 40, 50 grand. And that might be every 5-10 years, right? And that itself adds up. Whereas a renter would be like, fuck you, like this is broken.
Fix this shit for
Fix
me
it right now, right? But okay, that's one aspect. The other aspect to it is like I don't know, like it's the one thing of all things you cannot bring with you when you die.
What do you mean?
Like you can bring feelings
anything.
and emotions and things like that when you
don't
die.
know that.
You can bring experiences to your very deathbed. You can bring experiences with you, but that house doesn't mean shit.
What about your car then? What about your?
I mean,
shit?
like the thing is, like it feels like
If you should drive yourself to the morning. I'm just kidding.
so like outside
They
of
can use your
outside
car.
of having a family, I understand like having a family, you create emotions with a house and stuff like that. But outside of that, if let's say like I never like get kids and stuff like that, I would rather like rent my whole life, get to travel everywhere and spend all that money and not have to like sell a house at the end of the day and just like I feel like it might sound bad, but the optimal way to live your life is maximal happiness with $0 and zero debt when you die. Right? And I feel like having a house is opposite. Like it won't be true if that was the case, because you would have all this invested in this thing that you would almost never be able to get rid of, right?
If I had no friends or family, then I wouldn't care if I had zero money before or like when I died. But if I had like a lot of money, then I would be like, yeah, then you can make my friends and family's life more fruitful after I die.
I don't know, maybe, yeah, but that's still giving it away, right? That's still technically you have zero, right? In terms of that. But if I had no family, I'd be like, fuck, that's the optimal way is to like travel and experience shit. And I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like being able to not be house poor and being able to travel to other places and stuff. Like, I'm not saying I won't buy a house one day. I'm just saying, like, people are doing it, in my belief, too early in their time where it's going to potentially wreak havoc in their life.
I don't think it's a wrong way of thinking at all. Like, I think it's very, it's just different.
I think it's the one thing that a lot of people will disagree with. Like, especially people we talk to, they will for sure disagree with that.
For true.
That's why I was like, I never bring up that shit. Like,
our mutual
directly
group
to them.
of friends, for sure.
Do you think you would feel differently if, let's say, you won the lottery tomorrow, $5.7 billion? Would you still feel the same about buying a house?
No, because money won't be a thing anymore, right? I can buy whatever the fuck I want, and I won't have the consequences, right? But like with it being a real life consequence, then I'd be like, okay, is this something I actually really want or not, right?
Yeah.
My idea of buying a house doesn't go towards more so like financial things. It's more so like I feel like when I see people buying a house, I see it as like a place to go home specifically. And when you rent, it feels like you like even if you plan to be there for like 10 years, for me personally, I would never be able to fully settle in because I know that this is not actually my home in that way. Versus if you actually bought the home, then it's like, this is my home until I said it's no longer my home. Versus if you're because it's your choice. Versus if you're renting, then it's also somebody else's choice, whether it's your home or not.
So I have thought of the feeling of home before. Obviously, like this is my home and I feel like this is home, right?
Yeah.
But I have some like fucking crazy and stupid thoughts. So like sometimes I think about people in like war-torn countries where they have to leave their home.
What's with you and these armies and its wars to motivate you and shit?
It's always like military or war related that motivate. But I feel like fuck man, they had to like make something else their home. And they've done, and they like, I don't know how the success rate, but like they must have, like some people must have been able to actually achieve that, right? So I just feel like if it's achievable in other people, I have to be able to like make something else my home, like not in terms of a place, but maybe a situation or maybe people or a relationship or something like that, right? So then for me, like I have thought about that a lot and I'd be like, yes, like right now this is my home, and I'm just like, fuck man, one day if it does go away, I have to like be adaptable and be able to change my thought to make some other situation or some other life my home.
That's true. I think it's also very hard to do that though.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt homeless?
Yeah, but I feel like you have to. Like it's like almost like another step of growth.
Mm.
Right? Like to be able to leave your home and create another home somewhere else. Is for example, like both my siblings bought a house and they both moved out and now they have their own home now, right? And they had to do that, but they did it by choice. Like other people had to do it with like they didn't have a choice, right? And that's more traumatic and scary.
Yeah.
But I feel like the growth of doing that is still growth itself.
So like the reason why I said that is because something that I felt, and now I feel like I'm feeling it a lot less now, is that like when I was going through the stuff that I was going through in the last year,
Yeah.
I felt homeless for the longest time. And even though I lived back at like my parents' house, which is the house I like grew up in, and the house that I lived for majority of my life, and the house that I lived in for like my entire life, aside pretty much not my entire life, but like majority of my life aside from those 2 years, I still felt homeless when I went back because it no longer felt like my home.
But
because even though I left for 2 years, and even though I left for 2 years, but I was there for I would say like 16 years,
yeah.
it still no longer felt like my home. And so that's such a weird feeling to feel, that like you're homeless even though you have a place to live.
Okay, so maybe I'm projecting here, but does it feel empowering if like Lumi has become your home or your car has become your home or you've made something else to be able to transition into outside of this physical like object that's only in one place being your home? Now it's like, you know, a backpack, a dog, another thing has now become your home. Does that feel empowering or does that feel less?
It does feel more empowering, but I think that it's still a feeling that I still long for. So like for the longest time, my car actually felt my home. It feels kind of weird to say because I feel like some people will be like, "What the fuck, your car's your home?" But it's like the one place that's like solely mine. Solely mine. I'm pretty much always in my car alone.
Yeah.
Like I never really drive anyone else. Pretty much always me. I'm always the only person there. And like I really like going on drives by myself before gas became really expensive. So it was like the place where I would cry a lot or I'd have a lot of my happy like solo moments a lot. And like when I got into that car accident and I didn't have my car for like 3 months, that was the time when I felt so fucking homeless. I was like, I have fucking nothing.
But isn't that like, okay,
so
like,
that part destroyed me.
Yeah, it sounds okay. Yeah, it's pretty sad, but I feel like it's so empowering that you're able to turn something that used to be X amount of square foot into less, but still be able to have that feeling, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that like, for me, it's empowering because it makes it feel like, hey, now I'm not stuck to one location. Now I can go anywhere in the world as long as I have this thing with me, right? And ideally for people, it's a relationship or it's like, you know, some relationship, right?
Mhm.
Like your home, ideally for most people would be like, you know, your wife or your spouse and your kids. That should be your home regardless of what house you're in, right?
Mhm.
And isn't that so empowering to feel that if you can actually like move away from a certain location and still have that home?
I definitely feel like that's really empowering, but I don't know if I would recommend people to feel that way. 'Cause I think it's a very dissettling thing to feel because you have nowhere where you actually feel safe, where if you sleep you feel like you actually belong there or whatever. And like you like at the end of the day, after you like work really hard or you do a lot during the day, you hang out with a lot of friends, you feel like you want to go home to like rest up. You don't have that place to like rest up, so you will never actually get that rest for a long time. So it actually took me a very long time to like be okay with that, and I still don't fully feel like the place that I live is home.
But I feel like if you ever like got your own place, like even if you just rented your own place, that would like that feeling would come back to you of that thing, and it will be easier for you than like for me because I have left, but not like for a long time.
Yeah,
right. I feel like that's the empowering part. It's like even for Lynn,
I do see the empowering part though.
like the fact that Lynn's moved away from her home. I feel like, and she's created, let's say, her own home in Vancouver. I feel like that's like it's cool because although it doesn't feel good initially, you can now do that, but for any city in the world, or at least any city in Canada, right? As a starter, and maybe beyond, maybe North America, maybe you know the Northern Hemisphere, maybe the entire world. And at that point, you're like, holy shit! Like the world's my oyster. I can go anywhere I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like I personally don't completely feel that yet right now. Like I feel that in the sense of travel. I feel like I can travel almost anywhere in the world and I'd be fine. I could figure it out. But like to actually live somewhere else, I still want to, you know, be able to get that. And not just like in Edmonton. Like it's not the living alone part that bothers me. Like I've done that for like a couple months. It doesn't change anything for me because I'm a very like simplistic lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the fact that like that challenge of a totally different thing, right? That's like
I've obviously never moved out of the city, which is like a huge fucking feat to like create a whole entire new life like what you've done, Lynn. But like from my own experience, I think that it definitely is really empowering to like kind of navigate and create your own little home and wherever you go. And like for me, it's just me and Lumi.
I mean,
Yeah.
for now, can you get another dog?
Mm, no thanks.
You can get a sugar daddy.
I would never recommend anyone to get a dog if they're just a solo person. Feels like you're a single mother.
True. Feels bad. All right, back to the base question. What's something that you believe in that many people disagree?
I've had this thought recently, kind of cooking in my brain, which is, imagine moving in with your boyfriend or girlfriend, but you have your own rooms.
I think that's normal, isn't it?
No, everyone I talk to is like, oh, that's so weird. Like your own
Like your
bedroom
own-
with your own bed and your own shit in your room.
Wait, okay, so one, if you have enough rooms in the house, say if you moved in with Zach with a 3-bedroom room, isn't it normal for you guys to have your together bedroom and then your own room in
No,
each
so
of the
okay,
other rooms?
my concept, my base
I don't think her
concept
concept is that.
is
Oh.
okay. So imagine I moved
Like
in
your
with Zach.
roommates.
We have it's a 2-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
We each have our own bedroom. So like he has his bed, I have my bed, I have my desk in my room. He has his desk with his PC in his room.
Oh,
We have a kitchen and living room together. And then every night we'll just sleep in one person's room, like a sleepover. Like we'll pick up rooms to sleep in, and then that one day a week, I just want to sleep by myself. I want to be in my own bed. Or like if I just wake up at 6 a.m. and you want to game till 2 a.m., I want to sleep in my own bed, within like the silence and like not have you bother me when you come back into.
Is that not common?
Every
Okay,
couple,
no,
think that's common.
like yeah, that's not common, but like I feel like everyone would have like a together bedroom and then a separate bedroom with a bed that if that was a situation that they wanted to game in, then they would just go to the bedroom and sleep.
So like
I
every
think-
couple I've talked to was like disgusted at the fact of
Oh.
even sleeping apart at all, and I'm like, no, I just not every night. I'm like, I just need one night by myself in a
Mm.
week, or like, I just
Fan
like
the
having,
gas.
I just like having all my shit. Okay, so like, what if he wants an aesthetic of a certain type in his room, and I want like a nice, clean, modern aesthetic? Then we can't have both. So then my room will stay as my room, and he can have his shit into his room. So every couple I talk to like is so disgusted by this concept because they're just like, oh, you're just like roommates, but you're dating. Like it's weird, and I'm like, but it's modern. Like you have your own space. I think that's really important in a relationship.
I think that's I think that's an extreme version of having your own space.
Yeah, I think that like I can see why that would be
Yeah.
sick, but I think that the way that it would be more easier for people to take in would be something along the lines of what Alvin was saying, where you have your shared bedroom that you both sleep in the same bed every night, but then you both also have your separate spaces. So like a lot of guys have their like
Their den or
their
whatever.
den
their
or whatever the
basement.
fuck it's called, and then like girls will have their own room. So like yeah, like I had my you would have your own space where you have your own vanity or your own desk or all your own shit that doesn't really go in other places in the house, but then you still have your shared bedroom. But then I think that your way is like you're completely own separate bedrooms, and I think that I can see how that would work. I can see why I would also like that, but then I also really like sleeping in the same bed and like sharing the same room as like my SO. And I think that for me personally, everyone's different, but for me, if I was dating someone and they wanted that, then I would think that we're a little bit too incompatible to like come to a compromise to make like our like house aesthetics work together, or like to be able to merge some of our stuff together in that way to live a little bit more cohesively.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying you have to sleep in separate rooms all the time.
No,
I'm
I know,
saying,
I know.
yeah, like I just love sleeping by myself. First of all, that's a me thing. And not that I don't like sleeping with Zach, but like I want to be like on and off. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like sleeping by myself. Sometimes I want my own space, and the space and time is really important to me. And that's why I thought of this concept of having like your roommates, but like you're dating. Like,
But yeah, like I completely get it. I really like having my own space and my own time too. And I also enjoy sleeping alone sometimes, because sometimes if you sleep with somebody else all the time, you can't move and you always only have half the bed. And sometimes it's just like, I'm a really light sleeper, so if somebody else moves while they're in the bed, then like I'll hear it every single time, and I get the best sleep when I sleep by myself, unless I'm exhausted and the other person doesn't move. But I think between the two, I would still prefer to have a shared bedroom and then have our own like separate spaces.
Yeah, I mean,
But definitely controversial.
It's fine. It's a hot take.
That's what I'm saying. I've had this idea, and then everyone I talked to was like, "Oh my god, oh!" And then apparently,
stay in a dorm.
Yeah, literally.
That's literally what it is, right? A dorm. I mean, okay, why don't you guys just make your living room your shared bedroom, and then each of you can have your own bedroom. Perfect. And then just have a really comfortable bed in the living room.
That's so funny.
A really comfortable futon. There you go. Problem solved. I think it's perfectly fine. How about you, Viv? Do you have any hot takes that many people disagree with?
I've been trying to think of one. The first one that came up to my head when you asked the question was last time or one of the times on our podcast, I shared about my take on how people get reformed back into the society after they've done like a terrible deed and they've become imprisoned, and how I think that a lot of people just don't deserve it.
Like, you mean in this podcast?
No, like a previous podcast.
We talked
like they don't deserve to be reintegrated in society.
Yeah, in a previous podcast we talked about this, and I mentioned how I think that like if somebody has done a really terrible deed, then first of all, if like one of the examples I mentioned was if police was going after them, the police was just like they were instructed to just stop the guy. Like you can go ahead and kill him if you need to, just make sure he stops whatever he's doing. I think that's the worst possible way to go out. Like I think that you should fucking shoot their Achilles tendon. You should shoot their fucking wrist or something. Just knock the guy down because he doesn't deserve to die after he's done something really terrible.
You want them
Wait, I'm confused by
to
the
suffer and
not necessarily suffer, but I think dying is the easy way out.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
And like I think that some people think that they're punished enough just by going to jail, and I don't think that's punished enough sometimes. Like okay, if you put them in total confinement where they don't get a window, they don't get to see sunlight, and they don't get to like hang out with other cellmates, they're literally just in total solid confinement, then yeah, that would drive someone insane. And yeah, sure, that should be a proper punishment for the rest of your life. Then that would be better than saying like, oh yeah, it's okay if that guy like killed all these people, went on a serial killer rampage or whatever, then okay, you can shoot him when you see him, like kill him when you see him. I think that's terrible. That's so fucking unfair. So fucking unfair. Like no, you shouldn't kill him. You should arrest him. Maybe like
that's the anime justice.
Yeah, you shouldn't kill him. You shouldn't put him in a regular jail where you can actually see people. You shouldn't make sure that like he gets put into a jail where his basic needs are being met still by not doing anything. Whereas when there's people out there in the world that are like suffering and working so freaking hard just to get their basic needs met, like that's just completely unfair. Like people who work so hard and like stress every day about like their bills or like feeding their kids and making sure this is okay and that's okay. Whereas you have this guy who did all this crazy terrible shit and he gets arrested, he gets put into a jail where the government will feed them and make sure they're clothed and get them a nice warm place to stay. Even though it's a cell or even though it's jail, I think that's still totally unfair. Like people who do those things should be locked into like total confinement. Maybe if they get injured along the way, don't fix them.
She wants to fuck people up who's done really bad things, and but she doesn't want them to die because she wants them to feel the pain.
Dying is an easy way out
instead of just killing.
Okay, so you want them to be confined in jail, but like minimum needs met. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think like if you deserve that, then you should deserve that. Like some people think that just going to jail is enough, and I don't think so, because going to jail sometimes is better than if you're outside of the system. Because there are people who are homeless or people who are in really unfortunate situations who do petty crimes just so that they can be put into jail, just so that they can have their basic needs met. And that's just a way for them to survive. And I think that like that's so unfair that you can do such a bad crime and you still get your basic needs met when there's people who are doing good things or people who are just working hard out there and they're struggling to get their basic needs met. And it's like, oh, those people aren't getting their basic needs met, but you did such a bad crime and your basic needs are still being met, so that's still unfair. You should have your basic needs very like stripped to the minimum so that you're still alive some way somehow, but you don't, your cell shouldn't be that warm. You shouldn't be able to see sunlight.
Kind of like a war prison.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to like talk to other people or socialize with other people, because there's some people that like work all day in and out and they don't get to see their families. Like how the fuck is that fair?
Like if that's the case, I feel like capital punishment is almost better, because yes,
you're not wasting money,
but you're not wasting resources and money on helping these people.
That's true. Or like make these people work really hard so they could like power something. Like put them on like bicycles or some shit,
I've
like
actually
hamsters.
thought about that for if you put humans in like you know when they test makeup on rabbits, like do that but like on inmates.
That's fucking torture.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Instead of
It's makeup.
animals,
It's
instead of
makeup.
the fucking,
It's not,
instead of the rabbits and all the other animals, do it on
like
them.
nothing, like not torture, but like you know, like makeup or like moisturizer. Or make them make them useful, not just put them in a confined cell. Like make them farm wheat or some shit like that. Like make them useful in society in a way.
No, don't mess with
Like
the wheat.
pick cotton.
Hold up. Alright, we're canceling. Sorry, guys.
I mean, I'd be down to.
We have energy problems. Put them on bicycles or
put them
some
on
shit.
bikes and
Like
just-
do something. They don't deserve to relax and sleep in a cell while their basic needs are being met just as a
Yeah.
punishment.
You can put them on an island and make it a fight island.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, some shit like that.
Something.
Something for entertainment. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, that's a hot take too. There's no right way of saying it, but
I like
it feels very strong.
Yeah, like semi agree with you in a way because that's how I feel sometimes with homeless people who have they're just waiting for death, like those kinds, and then they're just killing people for fun to get put in a jail cell, and they're making the streets all disgusting, and they're threatening people. Like that's where I draw the line, where when you're threatening people and you're harming people, that's the line where if you're just like a harmless homeless person on the street, like I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're harming people and robbing people at knife point and stuff like that, then you should not have the rights to your freedom anymore.
Like I think it's very easy to not go to jail, guys, and very easy to not hurt people in that way. So just don't fucking do it. And if you do it and you deserve punishment in that way, then yeah, you deserve it.
I see. I have another. Actually, fuck
I have
this.
another take but
ahead.
one that I'm not that passionate about, but it's that I read this recently and I'm like, oh, that's kind of true though, because there's actually no need. And maybe it's coming from like a petty position, but like after you've reached a certain amount of money, like you get a certain amount of money, you can't get any more. You shouldn't be able to get any more. Just give it to someone else. Like billionaires shouldn't really exist.
Do you actually believe that?
Not as passionately, but I'm thinking like, okay, if
Like-
you're like loaded out of your mind, okay, I understand that you can't just give money back or else it fucks with the economy. Then like the value of things won't actually matter so much. But I think that if you're like a trillionaire, there's literally no point in you being a trillionaire.
Oh yeah, I get
What do you mean?
Like if you have that much money that you can never actually spend it, no matter how bad you are with your finances in your life, like when you're that fucking loaded, there's no reason for you to be that fucking loaded. You're better off allocating the money to like other places that actually need it. Like maybe there should be like some rule or some system where it's like, oh, okay, if after you get to like your first like $5 billion, you're cut off. You cannot make any more money. All the money that you make that comes into your bank account has to go towards like charity or someplace else. Like there's actually no need for you to hoard all that money, and it can go towards things that are actually beneficial. So like people, I feel like usually when you bring up a topic like this, people will say like, oh yeah, you can't just give that money back to society. You can't just give it to somebody else, or else you're going to lower the value of the other things that you want so badly. Then it doesn't matter. Then it makes everything else more expensive, or then it just like fucks with everything else, or it'll just balance back out and negate whatever you're trying to do. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I completely get that side. But like in that way, why don't you just put that money towards something that won't like change the scales in that way? Like put all that money towards feeding people who don't have their basic needs met, okay? Or like put all that money into other charities and things like that. You actually don't need that much fucking money.
I agree.
I don't completely agree. I mean,
Sick.
that
Alright.
cap is gonna have to be something ridiculous, though.
Like $5 billion, I feel like is decent.
Yeah,
I feel like
but-
you spend $5 billion.
But like, doesn't that? I don't know. Like, doesn't that kind of ruin your like the core motivation? Like, okay, for example, if I'm at $4.9 billion and I'm thinking long term 10 years, I was like, hey, fuck, 10 years from now, I want to own fucking Twitter or something. And 10 years from now, it's going to cost me $10 billion to buy Twitter. Fuck, like, there's no way I'd ever be able to buy it because now I have this fucking hard cap on me.
Why do you need to buy Twitter?
Like just something you want, right?
Elon
like
Musk
some
somewhere in the world right now is crying.
some human motivation, right? Or like, oh, I really want to go to space, but it costs me. I want to personally go to space. I don't care if NASA goes to space. I want to like build my own space like system. Well, it's gonna cost me this much, and if you put a hard cap, like inflation's gonna fuck this hard cap up because everything's gonna be more expensive.
I feel like there's a caveat that comes with that hard cap. So it has to be like, okay, you cannot collect that much money and put it towards your personal finances and your personal needs. So you have to put it towards something that actually like does something. So if we were talking about like space exploration, then you could say, okay, I am set to make $10 billion next year, and because I cannot personally keep this for my own personal gain, like I can't buy like, I don't know how many yachts you can buy or whatever, houses, whatever, or how many islands you can buy. You have to actually make a plan and show it to whoever is like guiding this thing, whoever is enforcing this rule, that okay, next year I'm set to make $10 billion. This is how I am planning to spend it. But it's still kind of under your name. You still get the rights, you still get whatever comes with it, but you can't actually spend it on, oh yeah, with this $10 billion extra, I want to buy France.
Well, that's kind of already circumvented. Like no one's holding that much cash. They all have it in different company stocks and stuff. So
that is true.
So then what they'll do is like, okay, I can't own more than $5 billion. I'm just gonna make a shell company that buys other companies and put all that money in there, and then voila, I don't have $5 billion. Like I feel like it's a very easily circumventable thing. Number one, and then number two, I just feel like it goes against like being able to, for people to see that cap goes against like their like own motivation.
The entire American dream.
Yeah.
What gives you the right to dream about buying Twitter for $10 billion when Joe Smith over there down the street can't buy bread?
It's up to me. Like that's my own motivation, right? So, like just because someone is doing bad doesn't mean I should also be doing bad.
That is true.
Right? Just because someone else is doing really bad in life does not mean I have to also suffer.
You know, I always think about
I think
this.
when you say, sorry, but I think when you say Twitter specifically, I hear you saying like, fuck Elon Musk. I'm like, no, no.
Speaking of Elon Musk, I always think about Elon Musk when I see his rockets, the SpaceX, like getting shot into the air. And then there was one recently that it went up a little bit, but then it couldn't fly for some reason, and then it went back down.
And exploded.
That's like $2 billion. And then that $2 billion he wasted on a single rocket.
But it's not wasted.
It's not wasted. He actually learned a lot from it. There was only I think it was a 0.25% chance that it was actually going to be successful. And their main goal for that takeoff was for it to leave the base. And the fact that it already left the base meant that they were successful in their main goal. And if it actually took off without exploding, then that would have been like, that would have preceded their expectations and their goals for that mission.
But then that money could have solved poverty in the States.
No, but like that's the thing. Like that's you can't. It's game theory at that point, right? Because now you have to see like, okay, how much more can civilization be enriched through the current investment of this $2 billion rather than giving it to something that is potentially perishable, right? But then that goes against the whole like cap money now, right? If people are capped at that, then they'll be like, okay, I'm not motivated to try to advance these things anymore, right? Like I've hit this cap, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna fucking jerk off to Playboy models all day. Well, like we don't want those people doing that either, right? And you're gonna say like, oh, they have to like give it away to certain things. They'll be like, okay, I'll make some fucking fake charity that my wife owns and I'll give them all the money.
True, okay, take this back.
Right. So then it'd be like, I don't know, I just feel like it's a good, like I get why people think that, but I think instead of seeing how other people should have their playing field level with yours, you should be like, how should I up my game to match theirs? If that makes sense.
That makes sense. I was thinking more along the lines of people who are like filthy rich and actually not doing anything with their money, but like living lavishly. I'm like, oh, such a waste.
There is some, like, so for example, trust fund kids, you want them to actually do something with the money, right? Like you're capable of paying for a Harvard education and they'll probably accept you because you have so much money. Then you should at least attempt to, go through some type of rigor of education and do something with it, right? But I mean, to each their own, right? Like it's like at the same time that's tough too, so the trust fund thing is tough because if, say, Viv, one day you became a billionaire and you're gonna die one day and you have kids and you'd be like, well, I want to give everything to them. Well, that's a trust fund at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then would it be like, no, you're not allowed to give it to them? As soon as you die, your money goes to the state. then you'll be like, no, like that makes me less motivated to make more money. I'll make just enough for me to survive, and that's it. And then somehow shell some money to my kids. Then that'll make people less motivated to like advance their own stuff for their kids. But at the same time, now their kids are gonna be extremely spoiled, right? And they're
That's
not gonna
true.
do
Like, I don't blame trust fund kids. Like, because if I was in the kids, I wouldn't be like, yeah, no, fuck mom, don't give me any money at all. Don't give me this few $1 million so I never have to work in my life. I would never be like that. It's a great position to be in. If you're a trust fund baby, then great, good for you. But like, I guess my main point of bringing that up is just it's frustrating if you see someone being rich as fuck and they're not doing anything.
I mean, yeah, and you see that
proactive or like progressive with their money in that way.
I see that with regular people too, where people I know make 6 figures or whatever, and they
no fuck you. If they make 6 figures.
6 figures is nothing.
No, I know, but I'm saying like on a small scale, like on our scale, where they make a lot of money. Like I used to know someone who made a lot of money. They never traveled. They never bought anything. They just saved and saved and saved and saved and saved for nothing, and then they're still saving, but they've never used it. And then I just think, like, oh my god, like you're saving so much money for what? You're never gonna use it. You're gonna die with all this money.
No, but
saved up.
What, like, it's so tough to say that because they might have their own motivation in something else, right? Like they might want something that maybe you can't see at that time, right? And maybe only they can see at that time. So it's very tough to say. I don't know. I feel like for that limit, like if you want people to donate, it should be up to like social workers or whatever it might be to like motivate these people to give their money rather than us hoping these people are inspired to give away their things.
Yeah, I think about it on the level of like, okay, if you can be a philanthropist on some level, or if you can actually make a decent impact on some level, like I would hope that people with that amount of money would want to do that instead of saying, oh, hey, here's my 100th Hermes bag.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I mean, okay, like I by no means I don't have much money anyways, but like I still think that they should be able to make an unlimited amount as long as the motivation is there and the corruption isn't there. I think those are the two key things of the caveats, right? As long as if it is a corrupted way of them getting money, like fucking Pfizer or some bullshit, then I'd be like, okay, no, like that itself is truly unfair. But if it is truly uncorrupted, like I'm not sure how uncorrupted, but I feel like the majority of Jeff Bezos' money is not really corrupted. Like he didn't force people to go on Amazon buy. He did promote it and he did advertise it and he did get it out there. And that was just like you advancing your own position instead of being corrupt and trying to like do other stuff like that, right? So in that sense, I'd be like, he deserves everything he has. He deserves as many yachts as he wants because he started on his like. And some people also bitch like, oh yeah, but he started unfair. He had a $1 million loan from his parents.
But if you had that, then you would do the same thing.
Yeah, but I feel like most people won't do the exact same thing because they're not smart enough to do the same thing either, right? So it's like, that's why I feel like hard caps on any money is like kind of tough for me. Yeah, I like it when people don't suffer and shit, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what the best way is to.
That makes sense.
Because like I'm just thinking like I'm very selfish, so I'm just thinking if I'm at that position, I'm like, fuck you, you're not taking my money. Right? Like, but it'll be the same for everyone. If you were in that position, you'd be like, fuck you, you're not taking my money. Right? Like, I worked hard for this. I earned this, right?
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty lax with my money.
Well, no, but like, if you were truly at that position, I feel like you would think differently. And if you were truly at the position, I also don't doubt you would give away a lot of money. But would you give away half of all your money? Or would you give away $1 billion? But what if $1 billion is only 1% of your money? Then to you that's different now, right? 1% of your money and 50% of your money means a lot different, right? And it means different to different people. Like 50% of my money means nothing compared to what they have. That's something they can make in like a day or a minute, right? Yeah. So then it's just, I don't know, I just feel like putting hard caps on stuff is just so fucking, I don't know, devious and tough. But yeah. But anyways, nice hot takes. We'll have some more hot takes. Thank you guys for joining our filler episode. Anything to finish off this episode with? I guess it was kind of
one last hot take is that you can only make ramen as good as like there's a very low ceiling for ramen. Like it can only be as good like that, like so good.
I really agree with
you. For any ramen, it can only be so good.
Every time anyone in Vancouver, including Viv, will say, "Oh my god, we gotta eat at Danbo because it's the best ramen ever," I eat it and I'm like, okay, just soup and noodles.
I'll also be honest, sometimes the more unhealthy the ramen tastes, the better.
Yeah, actually.
So fuck
Same
these
shit.
pure
Shin ramen.
ingredients.
If you had it on a night when you're really hungry and an egg, maybe a little bit of spam and some shit ton of green onions, damn, and a slice of cheese, holy shit. probably best meal you've ever had. Better than Ichiran in Japan.
I'm glad we have this anti-ramen crew here because I've always been a big proponent of not liking ramen that much. And these fucking weebs think they know all this shit just because it's from Japan. But anyways, we love weebs because we're the JV show, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.